So, you want to be a dungeon master.
So you want to be a dungeon master.
So you want to be a dungeon.
So you want to be a dungeon master.
So, you want to be a dungeon master.
That's great. We're here to help. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Justin. This week, we're going over the brand new class, the Psion. This was released recently in the newest edition of Unearthed Arcana by D&D. A class that specializes on psionic powers has been heavily requested by the community for years and years, and it's finally here. Now don't worry, it's more than just telepathy and telekinesis, but there is a ton to go over, so let's get right into it. But first, always gotta be a but first, what are the crit awards?
Oh my goodness, Justin, I'm so glad you asked. So I guess big news for the podcast and for our actual play stuff in general. We were actually nominated for Best Series.
Hell yeah.
For the Crit Awards. And yeah, it's basically it is a TTRPG award show, not exclusively Dungeons and Dragons. It started in 2023. It gets hosted at Gen Con every year. I don't think we're going to be able to make it this year, but who knows? Yeah, it's a really great way for us to get our names out there. By the time this episode comes out, you should be able to go vote for us on their website. It's going to be critawards.org.
That is right. Yeah, they put a big focus on smaller creators, indie creators, and the like, even if you're playing D&D as obviously not an indie game. But, for example, like, Dimension 20 can't be nominated. Critical Role can't be nominated. Like, they're too big. So it is very fun that we are celebrating ourselves in this community. Other creators, other small-time actual plays and game design, and it really does spread the gamut in terms of the nominations. You can win awards for best art design during a new TTRPG book coming out or something. You can get sound design awards, and we have been nominated, as Taylor said, for best series of an actual play.
Yeah.
And that particular show that we got nominated for was Mythos University. Ancient Greek mythology mixed with a stereotypical college setting, and then mystery ensues, and the students have to solve the dilemma that they are facing, in addition to dealing with the normal woes of college life, relationships, teachers, classes, the like. And so we're just so fucking pumped that happened, that we even received the nomination is a huge honor, and we're incredibly proud of ourselves, but also for our players and the cast that we have there. Everybody, Spunky Taylor, Daniel Hargrove, Cam Rakani, Classic Sam, NY. There is Meadow, and of course Taylor Hellstrom, of course, is one of the players. But
I might be on there.
Myself being the Dungeon Master, it's such a fun and incredible game, and we highly recommend, if you haven't checked it out, it's available on the podcast in audio form, and it is also available on our YouTube if you're interested in watching the actual play in video form. So go check it out. Give us a vote. Again, that is critawards.org. Mythos University by Soyouwannabeadm.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so super exciting news, and but we have so much to get into on this episode. Obviously, it's a class episode, so it's got a lot of moving parts, and this one especially has a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of intricacies to this new class. They've obviously taken a lot from other psionic subclasses that they've been trickling in over the past several years. For example, the Psi Warrior Fighter subclass, or the Soul Knife Rogue subclass. Those had the psionic energy dice pool. That's something we'll see again. And so there's a lot of drawing on things that they've done in 5th edition 2014 kind of stuff. And then they've compiled it all here in one class. And it is chunky. It is interesting. There are some new mechanics at play, some things that I find very interesting from a game design standpoint with D&D, because it seems to step away from, I don't know, what I'm used to from my 2014 experience. So, I mean,
let's get into it. Should we do this like normal, Taylor, where like one of us does 5 levels and then 5 levels and then 5 levels?
Well, I think we can probably alternate back and forth for a little bit because like some of these are just ASIs and
It is a full
spells.
spellcaster at the end of the
Yes.
day. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of chunky stuff right in the beginning, and then it lightens
Yeah.
up big time. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So at level 1, your basic stats, normal stuff, proficiencies, little things like that. So as a scion, intelligence is your main ability that you're going to be using, your primary. You're looking at a D6 for your hit dice. So we're kind of emulating the sorcerer and the wizard in that regard. You get intelligence and wisdom saving throw proficiencies. I think that's the same as the wizard, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'll look that up in the background. But and you get to choose 2 skills to be proficient in: Arcana, Insight, Intimidation, Investigation, Medicine, Perception, or Persuasion. You are proficient in simple weapons and not proficient in any armor or shields. So there's a lot of similarities with the wizard in that first little chunk of stuff that you get at being level 1.
Yeah, I mean, it is basically the same as the wizard. They are the same saving throws. Wizard actually has access to some weapons. With the scion, you have no...
Well, you get simple weapons.
Simple weapon proficiency, yeah. Okay. It's no armor proficiency at all, which is interesting.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I think that makes sense considering some of the stuff that happens later on. Like, of course, it opens it up to multi-classing the same way that you can multi-class a wizard and get armor that way and stuff. But
Right.
I think from a game design standpoint, I think this is why these classes get shield and mage armor and all these different ways to kind of boost you up.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it can't be done with multi-classing. We know that that's possible. I'm getting into multi-classing myself.
Multi-classes.
I'm multi-classing a 2024 character for myself, and let me tell you, there are some things that the Scion does differently than the other classes that already exist. I'll go over them when they come up. It's very interesting, the language here. So obviously, level 1, you get spellcasting. So right from the jump, that makes sense. It is intelligence-based. It works like any other full caster. It is almost identical to the wizard with the exception that you don't get a spell book. So there's a table that you would refer to. It tells you how many spell slots you have, how many prepared spells you're allowed to have, how many cantrips. All of that stuff is covered in that table. Just like a bard, sorcerer, wizard, whatever. Nice and easy. And then we get psionic power. Now, this is your bread and butter. This is going to be a huge part of the class that makes it different than the sorcerer or the wizard or what have you. You get psionic energy die. Throughout this episode, we'll probably refer to them as psionic dice or psionic energy dice, or, we'll do our best to stay consistent, but just be ready for if it gets referred to as psionic dice, this is what we mean. You get a pool of them. Now, you start with 4d6, and it goes up as you level, not just the number of dice, but also the dice type. So by the time you hit, I want to say level 17, you have 12 d12s. So 4d6 at level 1
crazy.
goes up to, by level 17, 12 d12. So it goes up big time. Now, these, as you use these dice throughout your playing of the game, on a short rest, you can regain one of them. On a long rest, you recharge all of them. These abilities, if it asks for any kind of spell save, like a saving throw, then it's just going to use your spell save DC. So that's simple, nice and easy. It's going to use your intelligence, which is your primary ability. And right off the bat at level 1, you get 2 fun uses for some of this psionic dice. The first is called telekinetic propel. As a bonus action, you can choose one large or smaller creature within 30 feet of yourself. You roll the psionic die as the target makes a strength saving throw. If they fail, they can be pushed or pulled a certain number of feet, 5 times whatever number you rolled. If they succeed on the saving throw, then they are obviously not pushed, but you only actually end up expending the dice if the target fails. So if the target succeeds, you just keep that die. You didn't even spend it. That's incredible. Awesome. That's just a bonus action, pushing or pulling. Then the other ability you get,
larger, smaller. That's and 30 feet. That's within 30 feet. And Jesus.
yeah, you're rolling again. All of these numbers go up because eventually you're going to roll a
Right.
d12. So then you have 12 times 5, which is the most that it would ever be, right? Is 60 feet. Not the most insane
That's
thing in the universe. It
Still
is
a huge
awesome.
push.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying 60 feet isn't like the most. It's not like 200 feet
No,
or something
yeah.
crazy. But
Right.
still insanely impressive. The other ability is telepathic connection. So right off the bat, you have a telepathy to a range of 5 feet. So if anybody's standing right around you, you can speak telepathically to them. And as a bonus action, you can expend a psionic energy dice and roll that dice 10 times whatever the number you rolled. That 5-foot range increases. So if I roll a 5, 10 times 5, boom. Now instead of 5 feet, it's a 50-foot radius on my telepathic connection. And depending on whatever my psion level is, that's how many minutes this ability lasts.
Okay.
So with telepathic connection, yeah, you're just getting this ability to not only speak telepathically just at a base level to a range of 5 feet, but you also get to boost it every once in a while should you choose to spend your psionic dice that way. So pretty powerful stuff all at level 1. Hey gang, we wanted to talk to you about something pretty important real quick. See, we have some really cool ideas for the future, but we need your help. You can do that by supporting us through our Patreon. At the lowest tier, you get early access to podcast episodes, access to episodes of Action Surge, our post-session table talk show, and entry into a private channel on our Discord server. At the next tier, you can get access to Bonus Action, our bonus content podcast where we talk about a huge variety of D&D and TTRPG related things, like multi-class mystery mashup, where we get 2 random classes and have to build a character, or Monster Matchmaker, where we go over our favorite monsters at each CR level, or recaps of our home campaign, plus so much more. Joining the Patreon helps us continue to grow and put out content that gets better and better as we learn, improve, and try new things. So, check out the link in the description to join the gang today. Because we're not even done yet, you also get another ability, which is just called subtle telekinesis. So you know the mage hand cantrip, you don't have to use any somatic components when you cast it, and you can choose to make it invisible.
That's just cool.
That's just good. That's just good.
Yeah. It's just good.
That's
yeah.
just good. Yeah, so you're getting a lot of stuff right at level 1.
Yeah.
And the Psion, I should mention, you do have your own spell list. There is like a
Yes.
Psion spell list, and it is located at the end of the Unearthed Arcana document. In addition with some spells, we're not going to go over every
new
single
spells.
little thing, but there are also some
Yeah.
quote-unquote new spells. They're like spells we've seen in 2014.
That
Almost
are
all
just
of them.
kind of
There's 1 or 2.
reflavored. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 or 2 are new, like actually new. And then other ones like Intellect Fortress, Ralphalim, Psychic Lance. Like we've seen those before, but they just kind of updated them maybe for the 2024 version. So, but yeah, that's all at level 1.
That's all at level 1. At level 2, you're going to learn your psionic discipline. You get 2 of these. They're kind of like Eldritch invocations. Basically, they can modify different types of spells. Like most of them have like a requirement of like when you cast a enchantment spell, do this. Or when you're doing some kind of a necromancy or transmutation thing, do this. There's other ones that kind of are just good for boosting ability checks and stuff like that. Like they said, we're not really going to get too into it because there are quite a few and we could sit and talk about this all day. But yeah, so basically you're going to get 2 at level 2. Then you get another 2 at level 10, and then another 2 at level 17. So you be able to get 6 of these in total. They're all pretty cool. Everything about every one of them is pretty cool. But basically, these are what you're using your psionic dice for. And then you can, anytime you level up, if you're not using one particularly much, or if you're going into an area where you think one might be more useful, you can swap one of them out every time you level up. Now, these disciplines, you can only use 1 per turn, unless the specific discipline says that you can use them like more than one, like if they can be used together. But for the most part, you're going to be one per turn, and only
it's kind
one
of like
per
weapon
turn.
masteries, where it's
Right.
like 9 times out of 10, it's one per turn. You're not, getting to use it a million times, or like meta magic, where it's like most of the time it's one per turn. But there's a couple that are like super specific, and they'll say this one you can do twice per turn or something. It'll mention in the actual discipline itself.
Yeah. And then the other thing you get at level 2 is your psionic modes. Basically, you can, as a bonus action, choose attack or defense, and you'll get buffs either way for a minute. You can use this twice per long rest. So if you choose attack mode, you're gonna add damage to your any damage that you do from your attacks, your psion spells, or your psion features are going to ignore resistance to fire or to fire damage. No. They ignore resistance to psychic damage. And when you roll damage, And when you roll damage for a psion spell, you can expend a psionic die to re-roll the damage dice up to your intelligence modifier number of dice, and you must use the new rolls. So, kind of what is that, savage attacker or something like that? Where you basically can re-roll some of your dice to try and roll higher. If you choose defense mode, you get resistance to psychic damage. And if you fail an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma save, you can use a psionic die to re-roll the save.
Or you add the whatever's on the die to the
save.
Save.
No, add it to the save. Wow, I'm getting all this stuff. All these
It's cool. Yeah. It's hard when there's like a million mechanics in D&D and they switch between them and they all sound kind of similar. And
Okay, so you add it to your save, not re-roll the save. You're just gonna basically roll your psionic die and add that to whatever your saving throw is, and that can potentially, change. It's kind of like I would call it a poor man's shield for saving throws.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, the crazy thing about it is obviously you already have to activate this defense mode beforehand, right? But as long as it's active, there's no actually, I'm incorrect. You do need to take a reaction to do this. Say reaction and expend a psionic die. But yeah, no, I mean, it is nice, obviously, because it's, again, you're starting at a D6, but you're going all the way up to a D12, and you're able to help your own saving throws for the most common saves that have the most devastating effects. Huge.
All of your mental abilities. And it makes sense. It's basically your mind is so strong that it doesn't, you're more resistant to that type of stuff, which is a cool little thing. Exactly. Just real quick, level 3, you're going to be able to pick your subclass. We'll talk more about those. They're wild as well. We'll talk about those after we get through the base class. Level 4, ASI or feat. And then
level 5, we get our next actual class ability. By now we've gotten 3rd level spells, but you also get psionic restoration. So now, once per long rest, you can actually recharge your psionic die during a short rest. Now, the max number that you can recharge is half of whatever your total pool is, rounded down. So if you have a pool of 6 psionic die and you've used all of them, you take a short rest, you can get 3 back, which is a huge improvement from earlier. It was just 1. Now it's half of your total thing rounded down. So that's nice.
Yeah.
And you can only do that once per long rest, though. That is important. So then if you take another short rest, you can't do it again. Then you just get the 1 back, I believe. But still, because there's so many uses for these die. It is insane. Out of combat, in combat, there's a bajillion uses for these dice. It's nuts. So that's all level 5. Level 6, we get another subclass feature. Level 7, we get Psionic Surge. Now, when you roll initiative, you can expend a hit dice to recharge one of your psionic modes. Now, remember when Taylor brought up that ability, psionic mode from level 2, you only get 2 uses per long rest. So this idea is that if you use them already, but you're entering another combat and you want to get either your attack mode or your defense mode back,
you could burn a hit dice to recharge a psionic
Hell
mode.
yeah.
Now, the interesting thing, and we'll see this in the subclasses as well and further features, the burning of hit dice is a common thing in the Psion class, and it is interesting because it is only this class that really draws on it. I mean, it kind of makes a ton of sense comparing the mechanics to the idea of the Psion and kind of drawing on. You had mentioned this with an idea that you had for potentially a homebrew subclass or maybe even a whole class, and it was based on a book that you had read where the magic casters there, I'm paraphrasing, the magic casters there could kind of cast spells more powerful than they were capable of, but it had incredible physical drawbacks, right? They had to
that
use
was
their own
the
energy
Magicians.
to do
It's
it.
a TV show. Yeah,
That's what it was. And this kind of has that same vibe. The burning of your own hit dice, to me, is similar to this idea of you're burning your own life force for the sake of
Basically,
extra power.
yeah, overclocking your body, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a really interesting feature of the, mechanically speaking, it's a really interesting design in the Psion class that we will see time and time again. So you burn that hit dice, boom, you get to recharge one of your psionic modes. Now, after you roll a 1 or more, after you roll 1 or more psionic dice, then you can expend a hit dice to treat any roll of 1, 2, or 3 as a 4.
That's crazy.
So now you can just, hey, I'm rolling psionic dice and I get to add this to my saving throws, or I get to add it to the damage or to whatever it is. Oh no, I rolled all 1s. Burn a hit dice. Now they're 4s.
Yeah.
Pretty gnarly.
That is crazy. It's like reliable talent for your freaking magic dice.
Yeah, for this extra
psionic
pool
dice.
of dice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting because it's like that doesn't exist in D&D as of right now. Like you don't get to do that with bardic die. You don't get to do that with I'm trying to think of other things. Superiority die.
Dice. Yeah.
There isn't like if you roll this.
And it's really cool. And so, and because a lot of the stuff like the psionic propel and stuff like that, and even the connection where it would kind of suck to have a really low roll, and like because of like range reasons, that also you have a set. Okay, I know for sure I'm going to be able to do it in a 20-foot radius, just because I just by rolling a hit die. Or not rolling a hit die, but spending a hit die. And depending on how often you're getting short rests and long rests and stuff like that, this is a pretty viable thing. Level 7's pretty high level. So by that point, you might not need all 7 of your hit dice.
Yeah. It's interesting to say the least. I can't wait to see this played out because there's so many abilities that you can burn hit dice for in this class and subclasses. That it makes me nervous for people to get a little gung-ho. It really is going to depend on how short rests work at that table.
Right.
Is going to change how intense some of these abilities are. But in addition to Psionic Surge, hey, you also get 4th level spells at 7th level. Congratulations. 8th level, ASI or Feat. 9th level, 5th level spells. I mean, it kind of just goes like that for a long time.
Yeah.
Level 10, we get 2 more of those psionic disciplines and a subclass feature. Level 11, 6th level spells.
Yeah.
Level 12, ASI or Feat.
13th, 7th level spells. 14th, you get a subclass feature. 15, 8th level spells. 16, ASI or Feat. 17, you get access to 9th level spells. Now, I know we weren't going to talk too much about the spells, but one of these, the level 9 spell that they put in for this is crazy to me. Where is it?
Which one? Psychic Scream?
Psychic Scream, yeah. That's such a... So it's casting range of 90 feet. Only somatic components. And basically it is an intelligence saving throw. If they fail, they take 14d6 psychic damage and get the stun condition. Half as much on a success, obviously. The next line though is the craziest to me. If the target is reduced to 0 hit points by this damage, its head explodes.
Whoa. Whoa.
That's such a crazy spell.
That's such a crazy spell.
Yeah. So, yeah, quote, that's the level 9 spell. I just wanted to bring that up. You also get 2 more psionic disciplines. 18, you get nothing.
I looked so hard. I was like, do you get anything? And I was like, I really can't find anything that changes. I think other than maybe the number of spells. Yeah, I mean, you learn 1 extra spell. Your prepared spells goes from 19 to 20. Other than that, nothing.
19, you get your epic boon. This again is, you don't have to choose this specific boon. You can choose whatever you want, but the one that they recommend is the boon of energy resistance. You get a +1 to any ability score. Not going above a 30. I don't know how you're getting to a 30.
You'll be fine. You're not gonna get. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
And they put it there just in case, because there's min maxes exist.
Yeah.
Power gamers exist, so they must.
You also gain 2 you would gain 2 resistances to either acid, cold, fire, lightning, necrotic, poison, psychic, radiant, or thunder. Basically anything other than bludgeoning, piercing, slashing.
Or force isn't there.
Force isn't there, you're right. And then you can change those resistances every long rest. And then if you take damage from one of the types that you're resistant to, you can spend a reaction, redirect the damage to another creature within 60 feet that you can see. It's a dex save against your saving throw, which would be 8 plus your constitution modifier plus proficiency bonus, or they take 2d12 2d12 plus your constitution modifier worth of damage.
Yeah. It's a pretty gnarly boon. I mean, the 2 resistances, the first time I read it, I thought it was just 1, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess. Feels weak for level 19, but then it was 2 that you can change on every long rest. I was like, damn, that is pretty gnarly. To just be like, which kind of dragon are we going against? Okay, cool. I just need a nap, and I'll be fine. It's like, whoa. Yeah, that's level 19. Level 20,
19,
we get Enkindled Life Force. Once per turn, when you roll a psionic die for something, you can burn 2 hit dice in order to roll 2 extra psionic dice and add them to the total.
Crazy.
So anytime you're rolling 1 die, you can turn it into 3 die at the simple low cost of 2 hit dice, which at this point you have 20. Might as well. Because it doesn't specify that they have to be like Psion hit dice. It's just hit dice.
Correct.
So even, obviously, level 20, you wouldn't have multi-classed. But let's say at the lower levels, had you multi-classed, you could choose. I mean, obviously, you should choose the D6s, not the other. If it's a higher die type, don't choose those ones. But you could, in theory. But yeah, what do we think about this base class? I think it's pretty it's fucking gnarly.
It's pretty gnarly, because especially going into this first subclass could be wild, because there's one of the subclasses does basically just physical. You can do physical damage with your intelligence modifier, and so now you can basically run up and you're a full caster with melee capability, and also all of these gnarly psionic things that you can do with your spells. I really like it. I would love to see it in action.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like a great class so far. Like I said, I think for newer, brand new, spanking brand new players, I could see this being complicated. It's just, not only do you have full spells, we know spells can be a little complicated for newer people with all the casting times and components and ranges and all that kind of stuff, rituals and whatever. But also, which is actually something really interesting that I'm just thinking of right now. Let me go back up to spellcasting and make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, they don't get ritual casting. An interesting little thing I just noticed.
In the spell list, they show rituals. I guess ritual
They
spells.
you can learn a
they
ritual
don't
spell.
have.
They just can't
Right, but
cast them as rituals.
they're not ritual casters, right?
So if
I
a scion is trying to cast, let's say, detect magic, they're burning the spell slot
Right.
unless they get a feat or something crazy that gives them some kind of ritual casting or something. But yeah, interesting. Okay. I like their spell list. I think their spell list is really interesting and fun. It looks like it's a good mix of utility and damage dealing stuff, or at least crowd control. Ton of crowd control, obviously. But as you can imagine, anything that even feels like it would be a mental based spell, it's in there. You know? Modify memory, dominate person, suggestion, detect thoughts. Like those are all included.
Yep.
And
And each subclass also gets their own little subclass spell list too, like the clerics and the paladins and stuff.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So it's pretty intense.
Which makes it even more. And then also, so some of the feats that you can take special psionic feats.
Oh my gosh.
Some of those are wild. Now you can only take one of those. There's like a list of 8 or 10 new feats that can go with this, and you can only have one of them.
Yeah, they're as of right now
Wild.
in the Unearthed Arcana, because it's part of the same document.
Mm-hmm.
They're called, it's like the last part of the document. They're under the feats section, but they're calling this group of feats wild talent feats. And just like Taylor said, you can only have one. So all of them have a prerequisite that says you cannot have another wild talent feat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it's just another way to really customize this. I like the customizability and like the different, being able to choose the different disciplines. And then also these wild talent feats, very, very cool. Because some of them are like psikineticist, which would kind of just deals with the kinetic part of it. Pyrokinesis, biokinesis. It's all very cool of like customizing how you flavor your spells too. Just a very fun class.
yeah.
I would definitely want to give it a shot.
They're very, very cool. And I haven't heard of wild talent as a thing before this. So I think this is brand new, this new collection of feats. And there isn't anything written here. Obviously, it's included in the Psion document. So naturally, it would make sense for anybody to draw the conclusion that these are related. And they are based on how they vibe, empath, telekinetic, like all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
Their sentence.
But it doesn't really say specifically that you have to be a Scion.
Exactly.
To use
That's my
these.
point. That's my point. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be curious to see how that all plays.
Yeah. All right, let's get into these subclasses.
Let's do it because these subclasses are crazy, and it doesn't get crazier maybe than the first one, just based on some of the names of the abilities and stuff.
Yeah.
This first one blew my mind. It feels like they watched our actual play of of There Lies in the Darkness, and they were like, cool, but let's make Bob even crazier. The character of Bob, played by Daniel Hargrove. Let's make it even fucking nuts. More nuts.
Yeah.
It is bonkers, to say the least.
So, the first one is the metamorph subclass, and basically the text under it is: your mastery of psionic powers turns inward. Your own flesh becomes like clay to you. And you mold it and turn it into the perfect vessel of your psionic powers. So basically you get spells like alter self, cure wounds, haste, polymorph, stone skin, contagion, a whole bunch of crazy spells on your prepared spell list. And then also you get organic weapons. Anytime. So the way they word this is so weird, so cool. Not weird. It's pretty cool. Anytime you take the attack action, or you make an opportunity to attack, you can reform your free hand into an insane flesh thing.
Those are my words.
Yeah. No, it is, but it is an insane flesh thing. Like, because you can do the Baraka from Mortal Kombat with the bone blade, It's a D8, and you can get advantage if an ally is near the target. You can turn it into a flesh maul and gross, but I'm thinking like Clayface making the big fist.
Yeah.
And so it's a D10, and when you hit, the target has disadvantage on its next strength or constitution saving throw. Or you can make the Viscera Launcher, which is a ranged attack that does acid damage.
Can you read their description of the Viscera Launcher? Because I just wrote down ranged attack after I read it and was like, I don't need to. This is insane.
Yeah, all right. So it's the launcher counts. So your hand and forearm transform into a crossbow made of muscle and sinew that fires bolts of bile. Gross.
What?
Yeah, that's what it says. So it's a crossbow that shoots bile somehow. It's classically a liquid, but this one you can shoot bolts of it. Counts as a simple ranged weapon, normal range of 30 feet, long range of 90 feet, and it deals a d6 of damage, acid damage.
And then once on each turn, you can do 2d6 instead of 1d6.
Right.
So it's like just so bonkers. Not only can you I'm picturing Mahito, the patchwork demon from, or patchwork curse, I should say, from Jujutsu Kaisen. Are you familiar? Okay. He was in this first season. He's like the human-looking curse who like has the stitches on his face, and he can like morph you, like change his body, so he can just make his arm turn into a scythe. So he does exactly this. He is a metamorph in many ways. He has organic weapons, and it's so brutal. The idea of just being able to change your body at a whim to whatever fits, and because it's not just, oh, I can just turn my hand into a blade at the last minute when I choose to make an attack. But they also have all these other little benefits, like the bone blade getting advantage on the attack roll if another ally is within 5 feet. So now I get advantage on every attack that an ally is nearby, in addition to being able to have this extra weapon. Like, what the fuck? Flesh Maul, you hit the creature, no saving throw. Now they have disadvantage on their next strength or con save for the next one.
Right.
That's insane. You can just hit spellcasters. Boom. Have fun with concentration, bitch. Mm-hmm. Or setting up wombo combos with your team and stuff. Who knows?
Oh,
and then the Viscera Launcher is just bonkers because of the way that it sounds.
Just the way that it is. Yeah. It's just crazy because of how
wild.
And that's not all at level 3 even.
And that's
because also you get the ability to extend your limbs as a bonus action. Basically, you spend a psionic die, and for the next minute, you gain the following benefits. Your reach increases by 5 feet, your speed increases by 5 feet, and when you cast a spell that has a range of touch and a casting time of an action, you can make that spell's range 10 feet.
Nuts.
Yeah, all of that. I thought it was you pick one, but no, you get all of them.
No, you get all of them, which is insane.
So
very
the
cool.
touch. So I was thinking of like ways to flavor that touch thing of making it a ranged spell, and I was thinking of in My Hero Academia, the dude with all the hands, and just kind of like throwing your hand out and having it disconnect and touch them, and then come back to your body.
Heck yeah. There's so many different ways you could flavor this character. Yeah. I mean, now I just want to play a Mahito style character or something. And just play somebody who just has this idea of morphing. So gross and so interesting. Not to mention, it's really fascinating to play a full caster that leans into some mechanical or some physical attack stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like, because we're talking about a character who, unless you multi-class, not proficient in any armor ever. Or shields.
Yeah.
Unless you multi-class, you're going to have probably
and no
low
access
AC.
to the shield spell either. It's not on the list.
I know. It's for one of the subclasses, I think it is. Because there's an ability that's like, when you cast shield, you do this. So, but yeah, I agree. I know. And then like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just so interesting because you have a D6 for hit points, so you have barely any health either. So it's interesting. Like the bard makes a little bit more sense because bards get leather armor. The subclasses give them proficiency in medium armor and shields.
and then they get the attacks and all the different things, you know? So it's like really interesting.
Yeah.
Even the wizards, if you're trying to go physical without multi-classing, Blade Singer's right there, and it gives you a huge boost to your AC and stuff because of the Blade Song. So it's like really interesting how this all plays, you know?
And I'm also just going back over the spell list, no blur or mirror image or anything like that either. So like this is
Not a ton of defensive spells.
yeah, and not a lot of health. Very
Yeah.
interesting, very squishy boy, but also kind of written to be a frontliner because at level 6 you also get extra attack. So now you have 2. And when you and as one of the attacks, you can cast a Psion cantrip that has casting time of an action instead of one of the attacks.
You're absolutely right. Now, here's what I want to bring up is the wording of that is different than the wording of other subclasses of the other classes that do this exact same thing. For example, the Bard has the Valor College, right?
Right.
And the Valor College has this thing at level 6. It says at level 6, you get 2 attacks when you make an attack action, blah, blah, blah. And then it says you can replace one of those attacks with a cantrip. But it does not say replace that attack with a Bard cantrip. It just says cantrip.
Right.
So if you are multi-classed, you can choose your multi-class's cantrip as well.
Right.
Not with this, you can't. I found that to just be an interesting thing. I just wanted to point it out there. I'm worried that they'll update the newer ones to fit this kind of thing, like because they're trying to push people away from multi-classing and kind of getting a little crunchy with it, and that annoys me because I like, even though you know me, I'm not a power gamer necessarily. I can do it, and I have fun doing it when we're discussing it as a matter of like discussion. But in terms of playing, it's not necessarily my main bag. But I just found it really interesting that like we're seriously going to sit here and be like, Scions can't do it, but every other class can. Because as a Valor Bard mixed with a Warlock, let's say, which is the multi-class I'm currently building, I can use my sword to make my first attack. My second attack, I can switch with a cantrip as long as it has a casting time of an action. Hey, I'm going to switch it with Eldritch Blast.
Yeah.
Well, casting Eldritch Blast at the level that I'm at, I get 2 blasts. So now my 2 attacks just turned into 3 attacks, kind of. Because I can shoot 2 Eldritch Blasts, right? So it just like really actually can get pretty crazy, but not with this. This, they've really specified psionic cantrip. And I just found that interesting. Now that I've said my piece, we can move on.
All right. Also at level 6, you get quickened healing. Whenever you cast Cure Wounds, you can expend 2 of your psionic dice to change the casting time to a bonus action and roll one of the psionic dice and add it to the number. Add it to the like hit points that you are getting back from Cure Wounds or giving out. Which is very cool because also with your extend limbs thing at level 3, now you can cast Cure Wounds at 10 feet and all that stuff, which is nice. Yeah. Although it's hard to imagine a world where I'm not just using this on myself because I'm about to die.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all know that like healing in D&D is like kind of set up more to be like a last resort thing and not necessarily something you're doing throughout combat.
Right.
Unless you have like a very designated healer, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting and cool. This is the start. This is the first iteration of a thing that we will see in the other subclasses where it says it's so specific. It's like, here's this really cool ability that only works if you cast this one spell.
Right.
We're just going to buff the hell out of this one spell.
One thing.
If you cast it. If for some reason because it doesn't say, do you get Cure Wounds as a prepared spell as part of the metamorph? I forgot to look at the...
You do. Yeah.
You do.
You
okay.
do
Thank God, because if not, I would have been even more pissed that they're forcing you to even take the spell. But now, so it's an interesting thing because I love that they power up the spell. That's dope as hell. I hate anything that makes it feel like I have to use a spell. I mean, obviously, you know, you're choosing the subclass. No one's forcing you to do anything. You can still have a metamorph character be just as viable without using Cure Wounds a ton of times. But it's the same with like the new Ranger with the Hunter's Mark, where it's like, well, if you're not using Hunter's Mark, then you're not getting the most out of this build. The new Barbarian, if you're not using Reckless Attack, you're not getting the most out of the build. And it's like, I kind of don't like that. That's just me personally, though.
Yeah.
That's just
me. Yeah. Level 10, you get your mutable form. When you use your extend limbs, the duration increases to 10 minutes, and you get one of the following benefits as your choice, which lasts until extend limbs ends. You can get your stony epidermis and get advantage on Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration, and also you can choose damage type: acid, bludgeoning, cold, fire, lightning, piercing, poison, slashing, or thunder, and you get resistance to that. Superior stride: when you're not wearing armor, you can take the dash action as a bonus action, and you have a climb speed and a swim speed equal to your normal speed. Hell yeah. Unnatural flexibility: you gain a +2 to your AC, and your body, along with any equipment that you're carrying, becomes pliable. You can move through any space as narrow as 1 inch, and you can spend 5 feet of movement to escape from non-magical restraints or end the grapple condition. So, freaking Elastic Man or whatever his name is.
Elastigirl.
No, well, yeah. I'm thinking of the Flash. What is this? I forget what his name is, but he's just like...
Oh, Plastic Man?
Plastic Man, that's it.
Hell yeah. Plastic Man is an OG, dude. He's a fucking badass. One of those, like, jokers. Like, jokers as in he's always making jokes and stuff. But he's, like, low-key, like, could beat Superman kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, because he just is infinitely bendy.
Yeah.
So like nothing really can hurt him. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all level 10. Very cool. And you can pick any one of those three anytime
whatever fits the situation.
Whichever one. Man. Right. Super cool. And then at level 14, finally you get life bending weapons. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with your organic weapon, you can expend a psionic energy die, and then each creature of your choice, and you roll it, and then each creature of your choice within 10 feet gains hit points equal to the number you rolled, plus your intelligence modifier. And then also one creature of your choice in that area takes necrotic damage equal to the number that you rolled.
Amazing.
So once per turn, when you smash something with your flesh maul, you can also heal your allies and do a little extra damage.
Wild. So wild. Because it also works with your viscera launcher also. So you can do it out of range. So yeah.
Such a gross weapon.
We're starting to see just how many abilities. Because again, we didn't go into great detail about the psionic disciplines, which also... 99% of them are like spend a die to do this. So we're talking about so many ways to spend these dice, right?
Right.
It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. Do you have enough dice, or is it too many dice? Are we always having leftover dice? I don't know. Playtesting will decide, I suppose. But yeah, pretty gnarly. I love the metamorph. I think it's so fucking fun. Just so cool.
It's bringing a lot of images to my head. A lot of them are not so clean, but it is what it is.
It's interesting. Yeah, you have to decide how you're gonna play this. Yeah, this is gonna be a really interesting one.
It's just all very gross to me, like because it is just kind of warping your body. I'm imagining a lot of Clayface from Batman.
Yeah, and I'm picturing a lot of Mahito from Jujutsu Kaisen. Because he's a particularly evil character, but his turning his body into different things is really, really crazy. But let's move on, because the next one we have is the Psi Warper. Whoa.
Hell yeah.
So at level 3, we're going to get those spells. So we're looking at Expeditious Retreat, Featherfall, Misty Step, Shatter, Blink, Haste, Banishment, Dimension Door, Steel Wind Strike, an insanely good spell, and Teleportation Circle. So all of those spells make a lot of sense. They make you move faster or slower. They're teleportation spells. They're pushing people to different planes of existence and the like. So those all fit the sort of idea that we have for a Psi Warper, because you're manipulating the space between objects.
And there's also something that we didn't really touch on, I don't think, when we were talking about the spell casting specifically. But when you cast a Psion spell, it doesn't require verbal or material components unless the material component has a cost or is consumed by the spell.
Is that just in the basic
psionic
spellcasting?
Yeah, psionic spellcasting. Yeah. So it's right under, it says intelligence spellcasting for your Psion spells, and then also it does not require verbal or material components unless, like I said, unless the material component has a cost or it gets consumed.
There you go. Very cool. So that's just base class stuff. Incredible.
Yeah. So all of these spells and stuff, you're not really gonna. It's like subtle spell almost, except that you still have to do the somatic components of things. So you still have to do the little hand wavy bits, but the verbal and material stuff you don't need to do, which is cool.
Incredible. Yeah. So we get those Psi Warper spells. We also, at level 3, we get teleportation. So you're going to have 1 free use of Misty Step per long rest. And then you can always burn a psionic die if you want to Misty Step again without having to use a spell slot.
Hell yeah.
So you'll be bouncing all over the place. You also get Warp Propel. So now this relates to an ability we get back at like level 1, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When a target fails against your telekinetic propel, that's the ability where you're pushing and pulling 5 times whatever you roll on the dice, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can choose instead to teleport them to an unoccupied spot within 30 feet of you that you can see, but it doesn't have to be horizontal to you. So you can't just pop them up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Still incredible, though. So now you have the potential of just teleporting people around the map, including yourself with the Misty Steps, which you'll always have prepared because it's part of your Psi Warper spell, so that's really helpful. And your Misty Step actually does get better as we move on, because at level 6, you get 2 abilities. The first is Warp Space. So now, when you cast Shatter, a spell you'll always have prepared, you can expend a psionic die to increase the radius to 20 feet, and targets that fail are pulled to the center of that Shatter spell, to an unoccupied space as close as they can get to the center, but still, that's helpful. Then we get Teleporter Combat as part of your Misty Step, so this is just part of the bonus action. You're not using any extra action economy. This is just part of doing a Misty Step. You can cast a Psion cantrip that has a casting time of an action. So again, specifies to Psion. You can't finagle this with your Warlock subclass and Eldritch Blast, but that means you're bonus action Misty Stepping and bonus action casting one of the Psion cantrips. You know?
Yeah, and it's a lot of it is like True Strike or Mending.
Mind Sliver, Telekinetic Fling, which is a newish one. So yeah, there's a couple. I mean, it's still incredible. You're just getting that. Who knows? Maybe you want to cast Message during a fight. That could be huge.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there's a million things. Mage Hand, Mending technically takes like a minute or 2 to cast. But yeah.
Oh, very true. Very true.
Ton of things. So again, we're building off of these 2 spells so far, Misty Step and Shatter. We're taking 2 spells that you'll always have prepared with this subclass, and we're just making them better, assuming you want to burn some psionic die on them. Level 10, Duplicitous Target. When a creature you see makes an attack roll against you, you can take a reaction and expend a psionic die. When you do, choose a creature within 30 feet of you that is not incapacitated, and hey, you and that creature teleport and swap places, and then they become the target of that attack.
It does suck that it has to be a willing creature, because I would totally be just snatching. I'd even, go for a saving throw to be able to snatch an enemy and just swap places with them. But, this isn't a way, as we've talked about ad nauseum on the last subclass, this class in particular does not get a whole lot of health. So being able to get out of there and like throw the tank in front of whatever's attacking you, very helpful.
That's the nice thing. I mean, think about our home game. Like, if like hypothetically, like the Warlock in the group who has barely any armor, has like a 14, 15 AC, switches with the character who has a 21, that's fucking huge, Yeah. Like that's really big, especially, you're switching with a character who has shield. It really can be helpful, but you're absolutely right. The willing creature is an important part of it.
that I forgot to add to the outline. But hey, whatever. Level 14. Level 14, we get mass teleportation. Use a magic action. Spend 4 psionic die. And then you can choose huge or smaller creatures within 30 feet of you. How many? How big's your intelligence modifier? That's how many. You can teleport them up to 150 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see. If the creature is unwilling, then they make a wisdom save against your spell save DC. If they're willing, they just go. So that's pretty gnarly. Pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, you could theoretically pick up the whole party and move somewhere.
Yeah. Teleport your whole crew somewhere more advantageous. Get everybody across the battlefield pretty freaking quickly. Doing all of that with a single magic action on your turn is pretty intense. And not to mention having the use, it's like a modified scatter spell to do it to unwilling targets as well. So yeah, the play that you can get with this, the strategy that comes involved with a character who can do not only a ton of teleportation themselves, but also against both willing and unwilling targets is, I mean, it opens it up to a huge degree of strategy. It's going to be really intense.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very, very fun. That's the Psi Warper.
Hell yeah. The next one is the Psi Kinetic. You're going to get your own list of spells. Cloud of Dagger. This is the one that gets you shield. You get Slow, Telekinetic Crush, which is a newish spell. Stone Shape, Odaluk's Resilient Sphere, Telekinesis, obviously, and Wall of Force. Very, very fun spells. You're also going to get at level 3 your telekinetic techniques. This is kind of ways to modify your telekinetic propel. When you do use that ability, you can impose one of the following effects on the target. You can boost them, and the target speed increases by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. You can disorient them, make it so that the target can't make opportunity attacks until the start of its next turn. Or you can hit them with a telekinetic bolt, and if the target fails the saving throw, it takes force damage equal to the number rolled on your psionic die.
Pretty good.
Very cool. Yep.
Yeah.
At level 6, you get the empowered attack mode. When your attack mode is active, you gain a fly speed. Oh boy. And can hover. And when you cast a Scion spell, you can add your intelligence modifier to one of the damage rolls of that spell.
That's pretty good. Good. The idea that hover is thrown in there too. Nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts. Makes sense because it's like a mental thing making you fly, like the same way that like a beholder flies. But I'll still never forget the fact that the water djinn, aka a Marid, has a fly speed but not a hover, and it's like a fish guy with a typhoon for a lower half, and it's like, that guy doesn't hover? How is he not hovering? He's using his wings? What wings? I don't understand. So that always annoyed me. But yeah, hover is huge. It's huge. What hover means for people who really don't know, though, genuinely, if you're like a newish player, when you see hover next to a fly speed, what that means is that if that creature gets grappled or restrained while in the air, they stay in the air. If the word hover is not there, then when you become grappled or restrained while flying in the air, you fall. That's the important distinction.
If your speed is reduced to 0 while you're in the air, you fall.
Exactly. Unless you can hover, and then you hover.
Right.
But yeah, that's why it's so
very, very cool. Very, very cool. Also at level 6, you get the rebounding field. When you cast shield in response to being hit by an attack roll, you can expend a psionic die to launch the force back at the attacker. The attacker makes a dex save, and then you roll 2 psionic energy dice. On a fail, the attacker takes force damage equal to the amount that you rolled, and you gain temporary hit points equal to that amount. On a successful save, the attacker only takes half damage, and you do not get the temp HP. Very fun use of shield, I think. I like that it's basically a reaction to do a little extra damage. Always like that.
And a form of healing.
Yeah, and health. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's a ton
For
of
basically
abilities
for
across
free.
2024 that give you these temp hit points. It feels like every single class can do it. So I'm really interested to see how that really plays out, because it does feel like you're getting temp hit points every turn from every class. Like I'm genuinely interested to see if it's just like, okay, what is this? Like we talked about how cure wounds isn't very helpful sometimes in combat because you know, you can't outdo the damage, but can you outdo all of these sources of temp hit points? I know that they don't stack and you're always just taking the higher one, but it feels like you're constantly getting it from somewhere. So I'm just curious to see how it really plays out.
Yeah, temp HP is it's very interesting because it's not like a ton, but it's definitely not nothing.
I know it's a little bit, but it's every turn from like a bajillion things. Like so many different classes or subclasses have ways to give you temp hit points, and it's like, interesting. I mean,
Yep. Moving on to level 10, you get your enhanced telekinetic crush. Anytime you cast telekinetic crush, you can spend one of your psionic energy die and modify the spell so that whether a creature fails or succeeds on the saving throw, their speed is halved until the start of your next turn. Okay, fun. And then at level 14, you get heightened telekinesis. When you cast telekinesis, you can expend 4 of your dice to modify the spell so it doesn't require concentration. Wild. And if you do so, the spell's duration becomes 1 minute and for that casting, and you can target gargantuan creatures and objects. Wild.
Absolutely wild. Yeah. That's a really, really good one. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
And they have modified a lot of things between 2014 and 2024. Like, I know at our home game, we have a warlock with repelling blast, and we've home ruled a little thing of like, if the creature is X size, like you can't move it 10 feet per blast. You can move it 5 feet per blast. And they've changed it in the player's handbook. Like repelling blast, it gives you a size limitation on it.
I gotcha.
But this is like, now we're opening it up. You can, you want to fucking toss a dragon across the side of its own lair? You can do it now. And that's so cool. Yeah. That's so cool. I have to say this telekinetic crush spell to me is a little underwhelming. It has a huge range, which is, and it does force damage, which notoriously like no one is resistant against, but it only is 5d6. They get prone and it does 5d6. It's a 30-foot cast, so it's a huge thing. I know. I'm just thinking Fireball's 8d6. I'm just comparing it to other spells that are 3rd level.
Yeah, I think it's the trade-off of, a little bit of force damage for doing a condition on top of it.
Yeah, prone is an interesting condition because it's so easily overcome. But it's a decent spell, and I think the level 10 being able to enhance it makes it actually much more viable.
Yes.
Because no matter whether they fail or receive, they have half speed, which means that they would have to use, if they failed and they went prone, now they have to use all their speed to stand.
Right.
Which is huge. It makes it incredibly much more viable. I think without that, I'm not thrilled with Telekinetic Crush.
It's fair.
But that's just me. And again, if I'm going full Psion, maybe it is one of the only damage dealing spells that I can really. I don't think Fireball is even on the list, right? So it's like, you got to get creative. But
yeah.
Hell yeah, that's the Psykinetic. Hell yeah.
Take us home.
Take us home with the telepath. You read my mind, Taylor. The telepath now. These guys are masters of mind magic. Whoa.
Hell yeah.
So you're gonna get those telepath spells. We're looking at Bane, Command, Detect Thoughts, Mind Spike. You get Counter Spell, Speak with Plants, Compulsion, Confusion, Awaken, and Modify Memory.
Wow,
pretty fun.
Those are big spells.
Those are big spells. They're pretty interesting. And we're going to play on those spells just like the other subclasses. So first off, you get Mind Infiltrator. So now when you cast Detect Thoughts, you can expend 2 psionic energy die to modify the spell so that, number 1, It doesn't require any spell components or concentration. And if the target fails the wisdom saving throw, they're never going to know that you're probing its mind.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, pretty intense. So your detect thoughts just got way better, which makes sense. You're a telepath. This is the time to do it. Level 3, you also get telepathic hub. So now going back to that first level ability, telepathic connection, where you could burn a die and expand your telepathy range from 5 feet to, upwards of whatever. First of all, your telepathy base range just immediately increases to 10 feet.
Nice.
When you expend a psionic energy die as part of your telepathic connection to increase the range, for the duration of that effect, you can also simultaneously contact a number of creatures equal to 1 plus whatever you rolled on that psionic dice. So now you have a hub. You have a communication hub set up. Your what's her face from Naruto?
Yeah. Ino?
Yes, Ito. Yeah, and her dad, who looks almost identical to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're those guys. You're plugging it into the Matrix. You're fucking
fourth grade
talking
ninja war. Yeah.
You're talking to the whole battlefield at once. It's dope as hell. So that could be really helpful. Like, you never know when that's going to be the most clutch thing in the universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then at level 6, we get empowered defense mode. So now, while you're in defense mode, anytime you make a saving throw, hey, just add a d4 to that. No problem. That's good. That's just incredibly good, right? We know how many times guidance makes the difference. This is exactly like, technically there's a cantrip for this called resistance, but this is just, you always have it active as long as you're in defense mode. But in addition, not only are you going to get this 1d4, but while you have your defense mode active, anybody that's inside of your telepathic connection, they also get it.
Dang.
So it depends on how wide your range ends up going, depending on what you roll in your psionic die and stuff like that. But still, so helpful to just have your entire party get a little boost on saving throws. So good.
Mm-hmm.
At level 6, you also get potent thoughts. So now you can add your intelligence modifier to the damage you deal with any psion cantrip. So the 2 psion cantrips that do damage, now they can do a little bit more damage. I don't mean to be a dick about it, but let's be honest, there really is only like 2. But anyway, and that's at level 6. Boom. Now we move to level 10. Level 10, telepathic bolstering. First of all, your base telepathy now just increases to 30 feet. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And when you or a creature that you can see within range of your telepathy fails an ability check or misses with an attack roll, you can use a reaction, expend a psionic energy die, roll the die, and add the number rolled to the d20, potentially turning that into a success. If it is a success, then you use that die. You've expended it. But if it still misses or the ability check still fails, you keep it.
I like that.
You burn the reaction, but you keep the dice.
Yeah. That's very cool.
It's very, very cool. Especially given how many fucking uses there are for your die, it feels like you have to be giving them some insurance in this way.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we get level 14, Scramble Minds. I had to read this one twice when I first read it because I was like, dang, this is actually insane. Because when you cast Confusion, you expend 4 psionic energy die to modify the spell. First of all, the radius of the spell increases to 30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Then, the other thing is, any creatures that are under the effect of the Confusion spell that you cast, normally at the start of their turn, they roll a d10, they consult a little table, and it tells them what to do, right? Some of them, it's like, you move in a random direction, you attack a friend, you don't do anything. Maybe you get to act as normal. Now, you roll 2 d10s, and the scion, the telepath, gets to choose what you do.
That's awesome.
That's
just objectively awesome.
It's diabolical because now, good fucking luck rolling 2 1s or whatever number it is on the table that lets you do whatever you want. Good fucking luck. You're confused, dog, and it's gonna stick. So that is bonkers. I just think that's so. It's level 14. It makes sense. It totally is balanced in my view, but gnarly nonetheless.
Absolutely.
Things can be gnarly and also balanced, and this is an example of that.
where I feel like it's balanced, it's fine, but it's also insane.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of this class in general to me is like, it's bananas, but it's not like it's usually only one or two things, like one spell or one ability that you're really taking and cranking to 11. So it's kind of balanced. It's still balanced, but also banana sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a good example. I mean, the Psion class so far seems nuts. I'm really curious to see what other people think about it and for people to play it and to see their feedback.
Yeah.
Because I'm just curious as hell. I'm curious to see if people are like, it's too squishy.
I can see that being a problem. I definitely can see that being a problem.
If the damage output doesn't, like, I don't know. There's so much utility. There's so much different ways to kind of maybe get around the squishiness that I'm really curious because it doesn't
really haven't
feel
gone into the feats or anything like that too.
I know, or the disciplines and stuff, but it doesn't feel like it has the same glass cannon quality that the wizard does because the wizard has some of the best spells in the entire game, damage output and everything, and it doesn't. I can't necessarily say that the Psion does. They have some of the most useful spells, right? Like Modify Memory and some of the Mass Suggestion and these hardcore spells. But in terms of damage, that's not where the Psion is coming from necessarily. No. And so it's going to be really interesting to see a quote-unquote glass cannon who's more like crowd control. Like a support class that's also a glass cannon a little bit without the cannon part. They're like a glass support. So it's like really interesting.
It's like one of those the bridges in China that go over the valley and it's glass on the bottom. So you can
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. It's a sight to behold. But I guess we'll have to see it in action. I really am curious to see this actually play out.
Yeah, the spell list is very interesting on this class. It's interesting. It seems like it'd be a lot of fun. It's got, like you said, a lot of utility in and out of combat. But it's a very utility class. It's not super. I wouldn't even classify this as like a DPS class. This is definitely like straight support and crowd control. Because I mean, you do get fun spells like Geish and Awaken, Etherealness, Hallucinatory Terrain, Polymorph, all that kind of stuff. Definitely all control spells. You do get Shatter, which is nice. It's one of my favorite spells as far as damage output.
It's a great spell. I always pick it as a bard because bards don't get a ton of damage dealing spells either.
Yeah, it's it's
Shatter's
definitely
always
really good AoE. Yeah, really good AoE damage. And
it does damage to objects too.
You're right. Yeah.
So it can be so helpful on certain maps and certain like out of combat situations. But yeah, I think it's really just gonna need some testing. You know.
Yeah.
Listen, like I hold on. I just had it open. I accidentally closed out early. Yeah, like back in 1966, a history lesson. I don't want to get too deep. This is gonna be so fast. But back in 1966, when they came out with Fresca, it wasn't gonna guarantee success. Right? They had to do testing. They had to figure out that
we're gonna get into this time. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at So You Want to Be a DM, or you can ask us a question at soyouwannabeadm@gmail.com or in the Discord server. If you like the episode, don't forget to tell your friends about the Patreon. Leave us anyway. Don't forget to tell your. It's definitely not the right outro.
Whoops.
If you like the episode, that didn't happen. If you like the episode, don't forget to give us 5 stars and a review wherever you found us, and check out the Patreon, the Twitch, and our merch with the link in the description. Join us next time for more Dungeon Master tips and tricks.
Bye.
See you.
And now I get to shout out the members of our Patreon gang. Nub Muffins, may Palor's light shine upon you. And then there's Tappy, Molly, and Elijah. Thank you all so much for being members of our Patreon gang. Remember, you can find the link to that in the description of the episode. And also remember this. We love you. Thanks again, and tune in next time for more tips and tricks from So You Wanna Be a DM.